Have you gotten used to the fact that you're getting ready for a BYU-Utah game in September?
Not yet. I'm not sure until after the game's over that I think the reality of it will really come in, but it is what it is. And with the national landscape changing and our independence and Utah moving to a different conference, and I think the strong need and feel for everyone to play the game, this is basically the best we can do at this point.
Both athletic directors have said it's important to them to keep playing the game. Is it important to you that BYU and Utah keep playing?
I think it's a great rivalry, and I would continue to continue the rivalry, and I'd like to do it even at a higher level. And I'm talking about sportsmanship from both sides and really keeping the game into perspective while emphasizing how important it really is.
There's not a conference championship on the line. It's not the last week of the season, but you've still taken the precautions to protect your players and things like that. So yeah. How much have you still managed that this week?
Just because the in-state exposure between neighbors, ward members, wives, in-laws, etc., it's just a whole different feel. And when the two schools are so close together, and the main difference of this game is that it takes on a personal level for a lot of people in the state, because they might want bragging rights for a year, or they have a neighbor that's a huge Utah fan or a neighbor who's a big BYU fan, and every time they see him they want to feel better about it. And so any precautions we take are just simply because people care a lot about this game, and sometimes they go to measures that are out of the ordinary just to ensure their teams win.
What do you do for yourself? I mean, do you and Holly have more in-home movie nights with your kids during that week?
No, we're the same. We just know that the number of questions and the amount of comments and different things we'll hear increase, but no, we try to remain consistent.
I want to talk about special teams for a second, because last year special teams was the difference in the BYU-Utah game, and last week Utah loses to USC on special teams. So how much is that going to be on your mind? A lot,
from the standpoint that 5 of the last 6 games we've played since Kyle and myself have been the head coaches, and splitting it 3-3, 5 of the 6 games have come down to the last play. And usually that means special teams plays are critical in there as well. And so, yeah, we had a punt that bounced off one of our players' legs, then we had an interception after that, that then we end up it was a called fumble, and then it leads to a chance to kick a field goal.
I'm glad you called it a called fumble, because that was not a fumble.
You're right. We had a chance at the end to kick a field goal to win the game, and they had to block the field goal. So a special teams play, ultimately after everything, was the most visible determinant of the game. And Utah had an experience similar to that last week, and we've had other games like that also.
The Utah game last year, how much of that was factored into the decision to add a special teams sticker and have the special teams flag this season?
Not so much. What it really was is after a 6-year kind of pause to say, okay, now within statistical rankings on offense, on defense, from areas in the program that we feel comfortable are on the right track and are performing at a level that'll help us move past where we currently are, where does the emphasis need to be? And what it became clear is the nature and emphasis we're placing on special teams need to come at a higher level. It's still going to take time for it to show and manifest, but I'm sure that that's one of the things we need to do at a higher level.
Why the decision then to put so much emphasis? You add a flag running out of the stadium and a helmet sticker.
Just that, to give visible credibility and accountability to an increased focus. And so the focus without additional things and markers to influence that isn't a complete cycle. So we wanted to not only put the emphasis in time, put the right people in the right spots, but then have the right symbology, I guess would be the right way to frame for the players to see it.
Has the criteria for helmet stickers of any kind changed during the course of your career?
Standards keep going up. Yeah, nothing's changed for this week, but for the season.
But season to season.
Yeah, the season to season, the standards keep going higher, and so when you see a sticker on one of our helmets, it's hard to get, and we award them now regardless of winning and losing. I used to only do that after a win. But there are some areas that are independent of winning and losing that are contributing at a really high level, and I think it's kind of time for the program just to keep reinforcing that also.
Is it safe to say that when your defense only allows 17 points at Texas, that should be enough to win for the defense?
Well, what history shows is our record is 44-1 when we allow under 24 points. And so, yeah, history says that should give you a great chance to win, and it did. We were within 1 point. We've only lost one other game when that happened, and that was to the Utah game a year ago. So 2 in 6 years with that criteria is a pretty good indicator, and so we have the right markers in place. It wasn't enough on Saturday, but it gave us a great chance, which is a lot of what the defense has to do.
History also says when you take a lead into the fourth quarter, you don't lose. If I remember correctly, I think 42-3 now is the record. So how heartbreaking was it to lose, because you don't do that when you have a lead in the fourth quarter?
A lot of things. We also have a great record in games that are decided by 7 points or less. We've only lost one since I've been the coach. And so a lot of things and rules were kind of broken in that one, and so that's what made it difficult. And maybe why it went deeper than some of the others is because, again, on that stage against that opponent, and really outplaying them for the majority of the game, those are the ones that you learn a lot from, but not easy.
12 of the last 15 games between BYU and Utah have been decided by 7 points or less. Any reason that you see this week would be different?
I really don't. I see a lot of similarities. Again, I've never predicted right when I'm asked, and so I always hesitate to say, but two good teams, two teams that are very competitive, two teams that like playing this game, and I think we'll compete very hard. How it turns out, what the score will be, who makes plays, who doesn't, no idea. But history says, well, as you just mentioned, 12 of the last 15 mean it's going to be a touchdown or less.
So be sure to watch the fourth quarter.
I think so, which is good, because for ESPN it's good because everyone will stay tuned in, and for us it's good because everyone will stay to watch the finish.
Usually you don't play a home opener. You've played a home opener by this point, but to have already played 2 games on the road in the kind of environment that you did, is this kind of a different home opener this season? Different.
It feels like we've been on the road for a month and seasoned at a pretty high level, so I hope it shows. And again, really through about game number 4, you're still kind of seeing the identity of your team emerge, because the types of opponents you play, how they play, how the styles match, and then where you play them has something to do with the outcome. And so this is just another unique game and an early start to a pretty tough beginning.
If before the season started you would know that you'd be 1-1 going into week 3 against Utah, would you have been satisfied?
Not satisfied, but certainly optimistic about our season, which I am.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks.